She had plans for the future, a stable job, a new condo, and a routine that everyone around her knew by heart. Jennifer Kesse was 24 years old, responsible, organized, and cautious, the kind of person who checked in regularly with her family, who followed patterns, who didn't vanish without explanation. On the morning of January 24, 2006, that routine broke. Jennifer did not show up for work at Westgate Resorts in Orlando, something that had never happened before. Her co-workers waited, her manager called, no answer, her phone went straight to voicemail. By early afternoon, concern turned into fear. Jennifer had returned the night before from a short trip with her boyfriend. She arrived back at her condo complex late. Around 10 p.m., she spoke briefly with family. Nothing seemed wrong. There was no argument, no distress, no hint that anything was about to change. Her car was parked in its usual spot. Her belongings were inside. Everything suggested she had gone to bed and planned to wake up and go to work like always. But she never left. When family members arrived at her condo, the scene was unsettling in its normality. Her purse was inside, her cell phone was gone, her clothes for work were laid out, makeup ready, towels recently used. The shower appeared to have been taken that morning. It looked like Jennifer had started her day, and then disappeared in the middle of it. Police quickly realized this was not a voluntary disappearance. Jennifer had no reason to leave, no money withdrawn, no messages sent, no preparations made. Whatever happened occurred suddenly, in a narrow window of time between when she left her condo and when she should have arrived at work. Then came the surveillance footage. Less than a mile away from her condo, her car was found abandoned at a nearby apartment complex. The parking lot had security cameras. Detectives reviewed hours of footage and found a man parking Jennifer's car and calmly walking away. The timestamp showed it was shortly after noon, but the figure was frustratingly obscured. Each frame where his face should have been visible was blocked by fence posts at the exact wrong moments. It became one of the most infamous pieces of footage in missing persons history. The suspect's face never fully visible, his body language relaxed, unhurried, as if nothing had happened, as if he had just parked his own car and gone on with his day. Despite massive media coverage, despite billboards, flyers, national broadcasts, no one could identify the man. Investigators dug into every angle. Construction workers were renovating Jennifer's condo complex at the time, many of them undocumented, coming and going, some living temporarily in nearby apartments. Jennifer had previously mentioned feeling uncomfortable around some workers. She had even told family members she was worried about being followed. Yet nothing definitive was ever found. No witnesses saw a struggle. No screams were reported. No physical evidence was recovered. It was as if Jennifer had been intercepted in the most mundane moment possible, walking from her door to her car, broad daylight, in a populated area, and erased without leaving a trace. Years passed, leads dried up, suspects came and went, but Jennifer never came home. Her case became a symbol of something far more terrifying than a dark alley or a remote forest. It showed that people could vanish from familiar places, places they walked every day, places they believed were safe. And yet, as haunting as Jennifer's disappearance is, there is a detail that becomes even more unsettling when you look closer. She vanished overnight, between one ordinary evening and one ordinary morning. No warning, no struggle, no escape route. And that same pattern appears again and again, not in cities but in nature, in campsites, on trails, where people go to rest, to disconnect, to sleep under the stars believing they are safe. Decades before Jennifer, in the summer of 1973, two young people did exactly that. They set up camp. They planned to return. Their last day was completely normal. And then, like Jennifer, they disappeared between night and morning, leaving behind questions that would never be answered. Mitchell Weiser and Bonnie Bickwit walked into the wilderness and never walked out. And what happened to them makes Jennifer's case feel even more disturbing. Because in the woods, there were no cameras to miss the moment, and no fences to block the truth. The disappearance of Jennifer Kesse feels modern. Cameras, highways, apartment complexes, witnesses who almost saw something. But long before security footage failed, before cell phones cut out, before digital trails went cold, there was another disappearance, far deeper, far darker, and far more unforgiving, because this one happened where there were no cameras, no streets, no apartments, only trees, only rock, only silence. In July of 1973, two young people entered the wilderness of New York State and were never seen again. Their names were Mitchell Weiser and Bonnie Bickwit. They were not running. They were not hiding. They were not in trouble. They were doing something ordinary, something thousands of people had done before them. They were hiking. Mitchell Weiser was 19 years old, a student, intelligent, quiet, prepared. Bonnie Bickwit was 18, creative, independent, restless, someone who loved nature and freedom. They met through shared interests and shared that familiar confidence young people have, the belief that the world is mostly safe, especially during the day, especially on a marked trail. Their destination was Slide Mountain, the highest peak in the Catskill Mountains. It was not remote by extreme standards, not an unexplored wilderness, not a forbidden zone. It was a known trail, mapped, marked, hiked regularly. They told people where they were going. They packed supplies. They dressed appropriately. There was no reason to think this hike would be different. They parked their car at the trailhead. Witnesses later confirmed seeing the vehicle. They began the ascent, and that was the last confirmed moment that either of them existed in the world. When they did not return, concern slowly turned into alarm. At first, friends assumed delays, weather, fatigue, but hours passed, then days. Search and rescue teams were called. What followed was one of the largest and most exhaustive wilderness searches in New York history. Hundreds of volunteers, professional trackers, police, dogs, helicopters. The forest was combed. Trails, ravines, waterways, plus nothing. No clothing, no gear, no campsite, no blood, no sign of a struggle. It was as if Mitchell Weiser and Bonnie Bickwit had stepped off the trail and simply stopped existing. Then something strange was found. Their camera. The camera was discovered deep in the woods. Not smashed, not damaged, intact. When investigators developed the film, they expected answers. Instead, they found only silence. Photos of trees, rocks, sky, nature. No final image, no accident, no threat, just the forest. It raised more questions than it answered. If something happened suddenly, why was there no sign? If they were injured, why were there no belongings nearby? If they were attacked, why was there no disturbance? Years passed. Searches resumed periodically, every new lead reigniting hope. And then, decades later, bones were found, human remains, scattered, weathered, difficult to identify. Eventually, through forensic analysis, they were confirmed. Mitchell Weiser and Bonnie Bickwit. But the discovery did not solve the mystery, because the location of the remains did not align with expected hiking behavior. They were found far from the main trail, in terrain that made little sense. There was no clear cause of death, no signs of violence, no obvious accident, just absence. To this day, no one can explain why they left the trail, why they separated from safety, why they ended where they did. Some believe they became disoriented, but experienced hikers know the area is not that confusing. Others believe there was an unseen encounter, someone else on the trail, someone never identified. And then there are the theories no one likes to say out loud, that sometimes, in forests like these, people do not simply get lost. They vanish, because forests erase evidence, weather destroys timelines, animals scatter remains, and once enough time passes, the truth becomes unreachable. Just like the case of Jennifer Kesse. Different environments, different decades, but the same ending. A person goes somewhere ordinary and never comes back. In Jennifer's case, a city swallowed her. In Mitchell and Bonnie's case, the wilderness did. Both left behind vehicles, both left behind questions, both left behind lives frozen in uncertainty. The terrifying realization is not that these places are dangerous. It is that they are familiar. Apartment complexes, college campuses, marked hiking trails, places we trust. And when people disappear from places like these, with no exit recorded, no explanation, no resolution, forces one conclusion. Sometimes, people do not leave. Sometimes, they are taken. And sometimes, whatever happened, happened so completely, that the world is left with nothing but silence. Cases like these disturb you. If unanswered mysteries like this deserve to stay alive, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more real investigations that refuse to fade into the dark.